When I tell you guys, I am pumped because I just know that this is gonna be our year. Like, I'm so done waiting for my dream life. I am taking control right now, and you are too. And I'm gonna tell you how in this video. Stay tuned. This is the energy we're going into 2024 with. We are going to change our life from the inside out. Everyone says chase your dream life, but they never tell you how. You're in luck. You found the girl who's gonna spill the tea. A lot of times we think that we have to add more and more to our dream life to get what we want, to create a reality that we want. When in fact, my personal opinion, it starts with elimination. Eliminating things out of your life that do not fit. For me and my journey, this was my corporate job. This was the job that I had been dreaming about since I was a kid. I thought this was the life and the world that I wanted to be in. And when I realized it wasn't, I had to eliminate it from my life. Now, that is harder done than said. And while I can't give everybody a blanket statement of quit your job and just follow your dreams, if you know, you know. And we all know when something is time. And it's usually when you're looking at videos like this, when you're constantly getting things on your For You page, or the algorithm is like conveniently sending you things, you know that your body is already telling you that you're into something else. Your mind is in a different direction than what you're currently experiencing. If you are feeling like it's time to let go of something, it's usually an indicator that it's time to let go of something. I just did a whole video on how I knew when it was time to leave corporate, and if you resonate with that video, I'm sure you're gonna resonate with this one, because this is the next step. This is like, okay, I know it's time to go. I know it's time to leave something that is draining me. How do I actually do it? This video is a part of a bigger series I'm making on how to attract your dream life, or becoming the dream version of yourself. This is something I'm on a quest to do, and I'm gonna share the 3 major steps that got me to this point in my life where I went from being depressed, being in corporate, not maximizing myself, to the point now where I'm a full-time content creator, I'm a full-time entrepreneur, and I started a company literally for this sole purpose. And I think the biggest shift in my thinking throughout this whole process is that you don't have to do some major step to get to your dream life. It's usually in the small things. It's usually in the silly little things that you think don't mean anything. Content creation used to just be something I did maybe once a week, even maybe once a month. And now it's my full-time job. And it starts with you just doing it for 30 minutes. It starts with you taking these little passions and side projects seriously and exploring, because you only find reasons on the journey. Okay, I'm excited for you to stick around. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a notification about my next upload, and let's get into the video. For a little bit of background, my name is Iffy. I'm 26. I live in Dallas, Texas. And in 2020, I quit my corporate job without a plan, without knowing what I'm gonna do next. I just knew it wasn't corporate. From having no idea what I was gonna do with my life to just knowing that I really love marketing, I discovered freelancing and literally tripled my income by taking that risk. And then last year in 2023, I took another risk by leaving my 6-figure freelance income to finally start my own company. I had a brief failed consulting business, which led me to the trip that literally changed my life and created my new brand, Sans Raison, and honestly opened up my perspective and my mind that if I want to create my dream life, I have to start exactly with the dream as the blueprint right now. And before you go on with this video, you have to understand, you have to come in with an open mind. There's plenty of people that tell me like, well, I have bills, I can't do that, this is not made for me, I don't have the resources. If you say it is, it's true. I can't fight you on the excuses or the mind blocks, but all I can tell you is that to have a different result, you have to be willing to do something differently. You have to be willing to open your mind to things you've never considered, because your current thinking and your current behaviors and actions have led you to this moment. And if in this moment you do not have what you want to have, there is something wrong with the process. There is something wrong with the mindset. It's not leading you to where you want to get. So just consider that adopting a new mindset could get you closer to the dream life that you actually want. But to reel it back, in the 3-step system, I believe we have to start with elimination. And arguably, I think this is the most important point, because you have to think about yourself from when you were a child. When you were a child, you were living freely, you had dreams, you had visions, you may have not known enough about the world, you may have not had all the information, but you were free. You were living true to yourself and authentically, because you didn't have the world's thoughts in your head on a daily basis. And in my opinion, growing up is just shedding everything you've learned, piled onto that childlike spirit and that childlike self, and trying to get back to it so you can bring that dream that the younger version of you had into a reality. But it's a hard process and it's not easy, which is why no one wants to do it. Metaphorically, I like to compare the thing you need to eliminate to a big fat elephant. This is the elephant in the room that nobody wants to address, but we all know is there. We all have this elephant version of something. This could be a relationship, this could be a job, this could be a lifestyle, this could be habits. These are things that we know are in the way. They're our crutch. We lean on this elephant. It takes up half of our room, and we choose to keep it there. Why? This is important to understand. We keep it there because it's comfortable. There is something convenient about the elephant being in the way. Maybe it's easier for this elephant to be here so we don't have to see all the possibilities, so we don't have to be uncertain, so we don't have excuses anymore. Sometimes the elephant gives us an excuse to be like, I have to stay in this unfavorable position or this uncomfortable spot because I can't move. The elephant's there. What am I gonna do? We like to throw our hands in the air and pretend like we have no control or we don't have choices. And that's the danger of this elephant. A lot of us keep this elephant around so long to where years and years and years passes by, and we see people from the little view and angle behind the elephant. We see them thriving and we see them doing things in their life, and we wonder why they can do that and we can't do that. And the biggest pain, I would say, is not that the elephant's in the way, is that you know you're meant for something bigger. You know you have a purpose. You know that you could have the audience, you could have the money, you could have the lifestyle, you could have the influence over people in a positive way. You could do it better sometimes. We sit here and complain and talk about something that we hate, because the elephant in the room, we have a love-hate relationship to it. We might complain about it all the time. We might say how it sucks or it gets in the way of everything, but we keep it around. And anytime you're keeping something around, just know that it is actually benefiting you, even if it feels negative. It's something more comfortable than the unknown. Now, I'm going to tell you about my elephant, which was my corporate job. But bigger picture, I think the elephant was society's standards on me. Things I had learned from my family, things I had learned from my friends, people around me. I live in Texas, and when I was growing up, I was in a very small-minded community. And I'm not saying that to shit on them. I'm saying that because compared to what I wanted to do, like relative to what I wanted to do, this was very small-minded for what I needed and the resources I needed to keep that big dream going. And I let that elephant get so big that I feel like 23 years of my life was used to grow that elephant and feed it. And I didn't even want the freaking elephant in my room. So arguably my whole life, I wanted to have this corporate job. I wanted to have the busy New York lifestyle, but like in Texas, and be a workaholic, be a perfectionist, always be in the office, kind of kissing ass. Like I kind of romanticized that lifestyle, and I felt like, oh my God, everything I'm working towards in high school and college was so I can finally get that. And I feel like that's the life that's sold to us, especially for me. I was in business school. They really sold to us, if you get this job, you're set. You don't need anything else. You're good to go. The closer I got to corporate and the closer I got to this like crazy, busy, toxic lifestyle, I realized I was living like a Hannah Montana life. I had been so used to my whole life suppressing the creative side of myself and embracing the strategic, like serious, diplomatic side of myself that I felt like I was Hannah Montana. There was a part of me that loved art and design and creating and speaking and videos and content creation and dressing up in cool outfits and traveling and meeting people. And then there was this side of me that was so serious and like wanted to do everything correctly. I had to major in the right thing. I had to learn all the good tools and tech so I can get a good job and look good to other people. There was this side of me that wanted to impress and not really let people know who I really was, especially in the office. I mean, that kind of behavior wasn't embraced. And at the time, I literally didn't see anything wrong with it. And I feel like that's a huge point, because your life doesn't have to be in shambles for you to want to change it and for you to not be living in your most true, authentic self. I didn't even know that following my dreams, being a content creator, all of these things were an option. But I'm realizing now it's okay not to know what to do, but it's not okay to do something you know you shouldn't do, something that feels against your body, against your values. And the best thing I could have done for myself at that time, which is what I did, was leave. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what career I should go towards, even though it was kind of obvious because I was really into marketing. All I knew is that I shouldn't be in corporate and I could figure it out. And just in case you needed a little bit more reassurance of like, how do I know that this is actually something that needs to leave? How do I know this is the elephant in my life or the elephant in the room? I like to think of it as something that takes up a lot of space, but also gives you this feeling of comfort. However, if you were to think about your future self, like your most ideal life, dream lifestyle, and somebody were to insert this elephant into that picture, you would feel like, oh no, take that out. Like, that's not the dream. I'm just doing this because X. I'm just doing this because I have to, because I need the money, because it's convenient. I'll see what else. Like, you kind of have like a wondering eye with this thing. I feel like this is a sign that this is kind of the elephant in the room. That was definitely my job. It blocked me from all of the creative, passionate ventures in my life. It always felt like it was in the way. I was always trying to create TikToks on my lunch break. I was always trying to get off off work, on going on vacation. I was always trying to avoid this thing. Some other signs: you've been complaining about this thing for a very, very long time, but you still haven't got rid of it. You're almost too scared to consider some other life that doesn't have this thing in it. It's almost foreign to you to picture a life that doesn't have this thing. You basically dismiss any idea that a life exists without this elephant in the room. And you feel internally like you're almost like blocked from trying to explore it, because that would require you to take responsibility and remove it. And that terrifies you. You're scared to feel responsible to get rid of this thing. It's scary. It was so scary to leave my job. Nobody was doing it. And simultaneously, you kind of feel this fear and excitement, because you know taking this elephant out of your room, out of your life, would literally change your identity. And let me tell you, this terrified me. Who was I without corporate? Who was I without this job that had defined me for so long, that actually was taking away from my personality and morphing me into this other personality? If I left corporate and I had already let go of my personality years ago, who would I be now? I don't have my old self and this new self I don't want. So who am I without this job? I feel like these are signs that this thing is taking up more space than it needs to, and it's gotta go. Okay, here is how I eliminated that elephant out of the room, and I took control of my life and created my dream life. The first thing I did was I set my environment for success. I'm a very out of sight, out of mind person, and I think this applies to a lot of us. If we don't see what we want right in front of us every day to grab, we're not gonna want it. Hence marketing, hence sales. They have to be in your face or you're not gonna think about it. So think about this as your dream life. You have to market your dream life to yourself. You have to sell yourself on your own dream life. How you can do this is put things around you that will make you feel that feeling, that will ignite that spark, will remind you of what you actually want in life. I feel like there was two easy ways that I did this in my life when I needed to eliminate my job, but I wasn't ready. I was kind of scared to take the next step. One, I talked to people who have done what I already wanted to do. People who had left, people who had started companies, people who were creating content. I was surrounding myself with that. Now, there wasn't a lot of people. Like I said, I was kind of an environment where I was the only one wanting to do this. My fiance is somebody who lives authentically and does what he wants and is very confident. He was a good resource at the time for me to talk to, because he was infecting my mind with the information that I needed so I could feel confident in my decision. I also started talking to people who were a little bit older than me, people who had more experience, so I could see in the past when they've left a job, in the past when they've done something a little bit risky, how it actually turned out from them. So a lot of people were telling me like no one job that they left or no one risky thing they did defined their whole life and ruined their life. Actually, I feel like a lot of the risks that they took made their life better, which made me feel like, oh, like this is not as big of a deal as I'm making it. The second way to do this, if you can't directly talk to people, is consume content about it. This was my major category of setting myself up for success. The algorithms do this for you. Luckily, watch videos, consume content. I was constantly looking at videos like this about how to quit your job, what to do, how is life after quitting. It just gives you more confidence that what you're thinking of is really not that crazy. And newsflash, we're all humans. We go through the same emotions. Most likely there is somebody who has tried what you want to do already and has gone through it and has probably made it out on the other side. Looking at their story will make you feel 10 times more confident. The second thing is similar to the first step, but this is really going deep. This is like immersing yourself into the reality. This is kind of like baby steps, like putting your feet in the water. And it's what I like to call exposure therapy. If you're familiar with this in psychology, this is really exposing yourself to something that you're terrified of, that you're scared of, so it becomes normal and your brain is not as fearful towards it anymore. And this is exactly what you're gonna do with your dream life. A lot of times things are scary to us because they're unfamiliar. We don't know how it looks. We've never done it before. We feel like we're gonna die. That is just our nature. But if you can put yourself in the situation physically, if you can be with it physically, it becomes less scary. This is a practice I've done my whole life without even realizing it. I always kind of do things before I'm ready. For instance, if I was apartment shopping and I knew that I wanted a certain apartment, but I don't think I can afford it yet, I definitely see it in my future, but I have no idea how I'm gonna get there. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll expose myself to it. So I will ask for a tour. I will visit the apartment. I will touch things in the apartments. I will physically, mentally immerse myself in that environment that I want, even though I don't know how to get there yet, even though I don't have the money, I don't know how I'm gonna get the money. Sometimes seeing the thing that you want and actually like physically being around it makes you be like, oh, I don't just want this, like I need this. And it makes you kind of like go backwards and being like, how am I gonna get there? Because sometimes just seeing things on TV or seeing them from afar, you don't really get that push and that urgency to go towards it and fill in the gap. But our brains are always solving problems. Just give it the right problem to solve, put it in front of its face and say, solve this problem for me. You will start to get creative. Let me tell you, when I was forced to solve the problem, How am I gonna ditch this lifestyle, not just this job, this lifestyle where I'm doing things I don't care about, I'm unfulfilled in my job? How am I gonna fix that problem? I started setting up coffee chats with people. I started working for my fiance's sister at her company. I had never considered that before. And this is me going from like making 5 figures to basically going back to like a $10 an hour job. But I was like, I'm gonna solve this problem. For me, if I wanna get into this field of marketing without any experience, without any professional work history, I am going to go from the bottom. I'm gonna get strategic networking events, physically going to the places that you wanna be in or the places that you wanna get to. If you don't know how to get there, there is somebody who knows someone who can get you there. A really good trick is asking people if they know anyone who could get you to where you wanna get. And a lot of times your network knows more people than you think they know. I wanna get into painting, start going to painting classes. I wanna get into ceramics, start going to ceramics classes. I wanna start building an audience, start posting your videos, like physically get into that thing that you wanna do. You just never know until you try, but you're not gonna feel forced to solve that problem if you don't put it in your face physically. If you wanna go towards that dream life and you're terrified on how to get there, on the process, you're not gonna start. The point is so you can get started. The third thing I did was reprioritize what was in my head into my reality. A lot of times when we're not living in our dream lives, our reality, our schedule, our day-to-day does not match what's in our head. Don't let the job or the thing, the elephant, start taking up the first slots of your day. Pay yourself first. I don't know about everybody's corporate job, but in my corporate job, there was definitely a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted energy, excess of meetings, Slack notifications. If you're not like that needle mover, that mission critical team, a lot of times you can get away with not doing the most work. I'm not saying do nothing and provide nothing for your company in exchange for the salary that you're getting. What I'm saying is reprioritize. What I noticed in my company was I could get away with not going above and beyond, not necessarily working 40 hours a week, but sticking to those mission critical tasks without having to waste my own time. I started to develop a recognition for when people would ask for things, they don't really need it, or they would set up a meeting, but it could be moved. I started to pay myself first with my schedule. I would put things that I wanted to do during my day and fit in the corporate job into the schedule I was creating instead of make my life revolve around the corporate job. If you can do this in a way, I highly encourage it because it's not forever. Trust me, I'm gonna get to another step. You're eventually gonna have to leave if you know you need to leave. This is a good way to keep your mental sanity while you're still here. I would focus on the projects that people would notice and kind of put off or delay the projects people wouldn't notice. I'd use the other time, the other periods of my day that I dedicated to myself first to create content, to make videos, to start learning about social media marketing or design, and just start exploring, start talking to other people, meeting up with different people. I worked from home, so this was possible for me. And even if this has to be on the weekends for you to restructure and reprioritize your time, don't let the job or the thing, the elephant, start taking up the first slots of your day. Okay, number 4, I like to map out where I am and where the dream life is. This is where you get the momentum. This is where you start getting the push, the drive. People are like, where do you get the motivation to actually pursue it? This is where you start building up. Oh my God, this is so different. The life I'm living right now is so different than the one I want. I have to go. So every day when I would journal and say, oh my God, I wish I could have this. I wish I could have this many followers. I wish I could talk to this many people. I wish I could travel to these places. It was making me realize like, oh, there's so much that I really desire that's flowing out of my heart that I can't do today. That's not good. And I had to tell myself, why would I not live that life if this is my life? This is not my boss's life. This is not my manager's life. This is not my friend's life or my family's life. This is my life. So literally, what else would I be doing if I wasn't living my life and making all of these things that I'm so easily writing and talking about happen? Sometimes listing out the things you want, journaling about the life that you want, and noticing the patterns on how you write that same thing every single day or how you constantly want the same thing will help you see that there's no reason you shouldn't go after it. And there's something that Alex Hormozy and a lot of entrepreneurs honestly talk about. It's like you kind of have to hate something about your life to change it. I know that sounds extreme, but I really, really agree with this and I believe this. I don't think you necessarily have to hate your life or hate everything in general, but I do think there's some aspect that has to bother you to motivate you out of the current life that you're in, because we are humans. We crave comfort, we crave stability. There really would be no reason for us to like uproot our life and change everything in our life. Seeing how people were creating content, making money from it, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have all these skills. Why can't that be me? I knew I would have these moments of depression and doubt and anxiety, but I would just feel like, oh, that's normal. That's everyone hates their job. Everyone feels this with their job. But I wouldn't have known that there was an option not to. There was this deep desire for this life that I'm living today. And it was easy to ignore if I didn't expose myself to it. But there was something I hated about about that I didn't have all of my schedule to my day. There was something in me that hated having to impress people or kiss ass. There was something about me that hated having to be someone who I'm not. And for the finale, the very last step, you have to take action. And this could be a gentle action. It doesn't have to be the whole 9 yards. I think the mistake people make is if I can't do the exact action I need to do and I'm too scared to do it and I'm too fearful, I don't know enough information, I can't do it, like period. And that just goes away. If I don't know how to quit my job, I just can't. If I can't speak to my manager about things, I just can't. There's always a solution and there's always an action you can make. Do a small version of that action. Do something that you can do today. Like if I told you and you were tasked with this, you like gun to your head, if you had to make one tiny action that could be closer to eliminating this elephant, what would you have to do today? Write it down. Think about it. Like what would you actually have to do? Something I recommend that it took me probably 5 months to do was writing my resignation letter. I feel like this is when things became super real for me, and it didn't require me to do the big thing yet, but it kind of helped me like leap into the future before it even happened. And between when I wrote this letter and when I left, it was a whole month apart. So by the time I wrote that letter and decided like this is the day I'm gonna talk to my manager, I just felt so empowered. It was almost like I literally quit before quitting. If you know you want to lose 100 pounds, this is just signing up for the class. This is just putting the workouts on your calendar. It's very tiny. It's like almost minuscule. You don't even notice it, but they're huge actions towards the life that you want. And there's so much power in the game plan because you naturally start getting exposed to solutions. So for example, if you are getting a side hustle, that probably requires you to work for someone else. That probably requires you to find some new online skill or talk to different people. You're naturally getting exposed to other options, and that was the same for me. When I was starting to see that, oh, people can make money online by making videos, I was like, oh, even though I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do when I leave, I have an idea that something else is possible. And the key part of this game plan is to set a deadline. You need to box up this time so you don't have forever, but you also give yourself enough time to take the bigger action. Mark this date on your calendar, tell people about it, hold yourself accountable. This is a date that you come back to so you can see in this 2 to 3 month time period, have things improved? Has my job gotten better? Is this elephant smaller? Is it not as big as I thought? Has something else come up and changed the situation? Is this still the action I need to take? You need to set a date to come back and reevaluate. So it kind of gives you a little bit of safety, and you don't have to constantly think about what you should do. You already know what you should do because there's an action plan and a deadline on the calendar. You either solve the problem or you remove the problem. It's easy to get into this cycle of, I hate this thing, I need it out of my life, and then like, oh, it's okay. Or I hate this thing and I need it out of my life, and then it's fine. And then it's up and then it's down, up and down. And I constantly had this when I didn't make a decision. I would just say, oh, I'm just not, like, I'm gonna complain about this and see if it gets better. And then it doesn't. And then something will happen, like somebody will say something nice, I'll get recognition, I'll get promoted, and then I feel better, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll stay. But I still was not making a decision. You still have to make a decision. When you give yourself a timeline and start your game plan, you have made a decision because you're telling yourself and the world around you, I am giving it till this date, and by this date, I still have to make a decision. But if you don't really have a game plan and you don't really give yourself a timeline, you're letting the world, you're letting other people kind of push you in several different directions. All right, that is all for today's video. If you made it this far, I know you're serious about this dream and I know you want to keep going. This is just video 1 out of the Dream Life series. There's going to be more on this topic. The next one is going to be exploring and how you can actually explore things that are meant for you, things that are good for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.